does. What is up, y'all? We are live. What's up, good fam? Gotta do my ceremonial cracking of the sparkling water. There we go. Life's pretty good. Yeah, I apologize for not doing the live last Thursday. So, it looks like the lighting's kind of weird, but we're all good. I'm doing a little bit earlier. Gotta watch the World Series. It's game 4 tonight at 7 p.m. Central Time. So, gotta watch the Rangers play, watch them win one more, take a 3-1 series lead in the World Series, and then close it out the next game. But yeah, I apologize for not doing this live last Thursday, just because on Wednesday I actually went to go see the Mavs play the Spurs opening night of the NBA in San Antonio. I didn't get back until like 2 a.m., 2:30 Thursday morning, and I had to be early in the office. I had a meeting at 8 a.m. and it was pretty until like 3 or till like lunch. And then I came back home and I just crashed and took a nap. And yeah, I was so tired that day. So that's why I didn't do it. But we're back tonight with the topic. I guess before we hop into the topic as well, got my new car. That was the big thing too. It's a sick Subaru Legacy. All right, give me 1 second. Stuff's not liking that I have a lot of stuff open at the moment. So let me close a couple things down. CPU percentages hot right now. All right, let's see if that's a little bit better. Kind of, not really. Yeah, it's better. So we are good to go. Got my new car. It's sick. I love it. The tech in it, it's crazy. This is only the second car I've ever owned. First car, I still have it. I'm actually going to sell it pretty soon. I've had a couple people reach out to me interested in it. But I got a '03 Corolla when I was 16. I've had that the past 10 years. Ran great, everything. Had few things I need to fix here and there. Nothing too major, but started getting older. Now I have a job and I'm making more money, and I knew it wasn't having major car issues, but I did fix stuff here and there. So I was like, I'm just probably gonna get a newer or buy a car newer. That way I don't have to deal with a lot of the stuff. Having to take it to the shop, I don't know, every 2 to 3 months, or have something fixed in it every 2 to 3 months. So eventually, well, I wanted to get a used car, but used car prices are pretty high, so I ended up opting for just buying a new car. I can customize it how I want. I can get it how I want, and it'll be brand new. Have all the warranties and stuff. So I got that. Super nice. I love it. I might just do a video, kind of all the ins and outs of it, and I definitely plan on putting some aftermarket stuff on it, blacking it out. I got it in black, of course. So I'm gonna kind of like do blackout logos, maybe do stuff with the taillights, possibly the headlights. I'm not sure exactly yet, but eventually get black rims. So I'm selling my old car, and I had a sub in there. So I transferred the sub today. That's where I was pretty much at all day, while kind of studying for my tests in the next couple of days for work. But transfer that over. Found out the newer cars, because of the touchscreen and they're newer, they make it a little more complicated to install subs. So I was expecting a transfer of the sub from the old car to the new car would be like a couple $100. Like that's how much it costs to install, not including all the sub itself and the box and the amp and stuff and the cables. But because it's a newer car, it needs different things, different adapter, different cables. So that plus the labor, instead of being a couple $100, it was like $800. And I was like, at first I just had to remove it. And then I thought about it and I looked up some stuff online, found that was pretty reasonable price. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I'm gonna probably eventually do it anyway, rather than wait a couple months and then end up doing it. I'm here right now. Let's just get it done, type of a thing. So ended up spending close to $1,000 today. Was not expecting that, but stuff happens. That's why that's why you need to be financially responsible and have your money right. Because if you have your money right, stuff like this, it's like, yeah, not expecting it, but I have the means to be able to do that. That's why you got to get your money up. So that's kind of new today, just because having that, like, this is a low key, like, golden nugget right here, just to improve your sound system. In my Corolla, crappy sound system. I had to insert a new console to be able to play music from my phone. But instead of replacing any of the speakers or anything like that, you just get a sub. Like, I got a sub. It's a simple one, not super expensive, with the box, the amp, and everything. With the labor, I got in my Corolla for like 500, $600. Now, they seem kind of expensive or whatever to you, but so much better sound quality, and especially the bass and the songs. If you want to turn up your music loud, like, it's so nice. And even in my new car, getting in there with not the bass booster that comes from the sub was like way different. I'm like, I don't really like it. So put the sub in there. Oh, it's so nice. Sounds super nice. Eventually, in a couple years, I might upgrade the bass in there. Who knows? But it's just like super nice right now. So I'm loving it. All right, that's kind of the updates for y'all. Let's go ahead and hop into the topic at hand tonight, because we got a World Series to watch and a game to win. So tonight we're talking emotional intelligence. And this is super important just because you've heard of IQ, probably haven't heard of EQ. I'm here to tell you emotional quotient, emotional intelligence is by far the most important thing when it comes to becoming successful or driving success. Is you need to have a high emotional intelligence. You see anyone who's very successful in being a leader in business and whatever respective field that they're in, that they work with a lot of people and they're very successful at it, they have high emotional intelligence. All the people that you see on Instagram and social media that are just killing it, you wish you were in their position. Specifically, the guys that you look up to, that guys want to be them and women want to be with them, they have extremely high emotional intelligence. They're not the smartest people, by far, they're not. But they have the highest emotional intelligence. They know how to work their way and read a room, understand relationships with people, maximize the relationships with people, how to manage them, how to work with them. And that's honestly the most important thing that you can do that literally drives and leads to success. All right, so you're probably asking me, what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence, also known as emotional quotient, EQ, like I referred to, refers to the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and effectively use one's own emotions as well as the emotions of others. It involves a set of skills and competencies that are essential for building healthy relationships, making informed decisions, and navigating social interactions. Now, that's kind of the definition by the book of what emotional intelligence is. I kind of shortened that down personally to being able to build relationships, manage relationships, aka know how to read a room. I think that's the simplest way you can really narrow it down to. You have someone who's very high emotional intelligence, put them in a room, they're able to interact with people, get to know people, build a network with people, build some sort of relationship, even if they didn't have a relationship prior. Someone with very low emotional intelligence won't do that at all. And at the end of that experiment or whatever, the person with intelligence will come out with way more friends, way more interactions, way more relationships than the person with low emotional intelligence. And genuinely, the people that interact with a high emotional intelligence person will genuinely like that person and would like to further their conversation with that, or even further their relationship in some way, in business, romantically, or whatever. That's the difference between high emotional intelligence people versus low emotional intelligence people. So there are 5 parts to emotional intelligence. Self-awareness, one. I guess I'll just kind of go through them really quickly at first. So number one, self-awareness. Number two, self-regulation. Number three, motivation. Number four, empathy. And number five, social skills. Now, I'll kind of explain each one, what it means. Now, self-awareness is relating to kind of your ability to recognize and understand your own emotions. Like knowing yourself inside and out. That's actually super important because if you don't really know yourself and how you manage situations, do you get upset really easily, or do you have a short temper, or is your coping mechanisms for interacting or coming into like having an obstacle come into your path is like avoidance or something like that. You got to know yourself inside and out in order to properly manage certain situations that you could possibly be thrust into. So it also involves being in tune with your emotional state, knowing why you feel the way that you do. So, for example, I know myself pretty well. Obviously, I can improve greatly on this, but there are some days where I'm just not feeling it. I'm just like not super motivated. I'm don't really feel like doing anything. I just kind of want to lay around. I don't. There's even days where I don't really want to go to the gym. Like I love going to the gym, but there's some days where I just don't feel like it. So, and there are reasons behind that, and the importance of knowing the kind of the reasons why things make you feel the way that they make you feel is because if you can understand why you're feeling a certain way, then you can almost reverse engineer and put yourself in a different situation where you can almost like manipulate your mood. Now, manipulate might be seen as might have a negative connotation per se, but you can really control your life other than people who are like, "Oh, I it's nothing I can do about it." It's like I'll be very specific in wording this, but like people that say that have quote unquote depression. Now, obviously, there is clinical diagnosed depression that people have, but for the main part, yeah, everyone gets depressed from time to time. I get depressed from time to time. I would probably say I have somewhat seasonal depression, so more towards the winter months, like right now, when it starts getting darker earlier, gets colder, more inside, more not as much natural vitamin D. I am vitamin D deficient in the first place, so it doesn't help. But typically during the colder months, I tend to have a little bit less motivation, a little bit less energy, and that's kind of the seasonal depression in a nutshell. But there are things that I can do. For example, starting my day, going off to the gym, getting into the gym and working out. Even though if I don't feel like it, hey, I need to press on, I do stuff. I can do things in my life to somewhat change my circumstances and make me feel differently about the rest of the day. Now, obviously, there's days that don't work out. One of my men's value tips was it's okay to take a day off. Like it's totally okay. And that's kind of what I found works really well with me. And everyone's different, so whatever works well for you may not work well for me. Whatever works well for me may not work well for you. But understanding how you function, how you work, what makes you feel certain types of ways, you can reverse like I said earlier, you can reverse engineer it and you can structure yourself. All right, maybe today I'm not having the best day, but I can do this, this, and this, which will make me feel a little bit better, so I can get at least a little bit done. And there's some days where I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling this kind of way, like very difficult for me to do anything. I'm going to take it easy and I'm going to hit it hard the next day. That way, I'm not in this slump where it's very easy for people to get in the slumps or very depressional states, and where it's like weeks, months at a time, they're not able to do anything. Like, can't even leave their bed, don't even leave their room. And I'd much rather take, all right, I'm going to take one day for myself just to kind of chill, recharge, reset, and then kind of go at it tomorrow rather than a whole week of just misery. So that's self awareness. And obviously self awareness and the fact that if you're in a group of people as well, making sure you present yourself in a suitable manner that matches kind of the situation that you're in. All right, number two, self regulation. It's all about managing, controlling your emotions. I guess this kind of, I talked about this in the last one, but self awareness is first, I guess, obviously the awareness, knowing the knowledge of kind of why you feel certain ways. But then self regulation is kind of the action steps that you can take to change your mood in a sense or change your emotions. It involves staying calm under pressure, handling stress, avoiding impulsive and destructive behaviors. Like I said, calm under pressure I think is super interesting just because they do tons of studies about it. Professional athletes, CEOs and stuff, because a lot of those people, doctors, surgeons, they're from very high pressure situations a lot of times. And at least from what I found, I'm by far no expert on pressure and performing super well under pressure. I'd like to say I perform very relatively well under pressure, but I mean, who am I, you know? And at least what I found kind of helped me being under pressure just because, yeah, you get nervous sometimes and your body res- responds when you're nervous and it locks up and you tense up. So having this almost a obviously you want to impress people, you want to do your best, you want to perform at the max capability. But also, one thing that helps me is just having a part of my mind where it's like, so what? Like, I don't really care. Like, having this nonchalant, I don't care, I don't give an F about what happens, really helps kind of relieve pressure off of you and allows your body to relax a little bit more. That way, you can perform to the best of your ability. Number three, motivation. Motivation in the context of emotional intelligence involves setting, working towards personal and professional goals. Includes having a strong intrinsic drive and ability to bounce back from setbacks. Now, I think that last part, ability to back from setbacks, is probably the most important part. You can't rely on motivation. Motivation is fickle. So maybe I would switch out motivation that it says here for like discipline is the word I wanted to say. So discipline. Motivation is fickle. Like I said, there's some days where you feel like doing stuff. There's some days you don't. It's just part of being a human. But if you have discipline, it's like even on the days that are harder, hey, I'm still going to do that thing. And when I do that thing, I feel a lot better about myself. Therefore, kind of gives you momentum for the rest of your day to get the things that you need to get done. But I really like that last part and the fact that ability to bounce back from setbacks. And I think this kind of ties into handling pressure and stuff like that, mitigating stress, is you have to have this somewhat mentality of like not caring slash if I mess up, it's okay. And that gives you so much power. I'd say that's a superpower in itself. It's like because people always think of I cannot fail. I can't afford to fail. I will not fail. Whereas if you have, I kind of think of it, it's like I will not fail. But in the case that I do fail, like what's the like? I always think of what's the worst thing that could happen to me. This might not sound like super positive thinking, but it actually works. If you think about the worst possible thing, you're in a situation. I'm like, all right, what's the worst possible situation going to be? I lose all my money, I lose my job, or whatever. Will I be able to survive? Yeah, I'll be able to survive. And it's like, okay, if I can survive the worst possibility for whatever said situation that you're in, it's like, what? Like, then that's it? Then you don't worry about it as much and you can bounce back from it. So that's number three, motivation. Number four, empathy. Now, this one's really important as well. Empathy is the capacity to recognize, understand emotions, perspectives of others. So in religion specifically in my church we always talk about Christ both having empathy and compassion or I believe that was the word. Wait, no, not empathy, no, not necessarily compassion. What was the word? Empathy and sympathy. Yes, so empathy, I believe, or sympathy. Yeah, empathy is feeling what someone else feels, while sympathy is more like you're kind of you're what's the word? Sympathy is understanding, or sympathy is when you share feelings of others. It's like, okay, like I've never been through that type of a thing, but I like understand what you're going through. Empathy, on the other hand, is actually I might have switched those up. Sympathy is like you feel sorry for the person. Empathy is a deeper version. So yeah, okay. Empathy is the deeper version where you understand. So sympathy is like, oh, okay, I feel for you, type of a thing. I've never been in a situation like that, but I'm here with you. And then empathy, on the other hand, is like, I understand what you're going through. I've most likely probably been through something very similar, if not the same thing, before. So that's a really important thing, just because sympathy is great, but the better attribute to have is empathy, because people can really sense that it's like, hey, I've been through something like this. I'm here with you in the trenches for whatever you're going through. We're gonna get through it together. And the more empathy you can have towards people, the better you can relate, and the better people will trust you. And that's a big thing when it comes to relationships. It's all about trust. And really, the only way you can develop your empathy is by experiencing different things. Obviously, you might not experience everything. Like, you can't really. Some people's parents might get cancer, or friends might get cancer, or whatever. But you can't like. Obviously, don't wish your parents get cancer or a friend gets cancer or something like that. So there might be stuff that you never experience, but maybe you make some friends and someone goes through something that similar, then you have that experience and you can have empathy with someone. All right, number 5 is social skills. Social skills kind of encompasses all of this, but and kind of wraps it all up. Social skills are so important because this is your way you effectively communicate with people. This is how you resolve conflicts and maintain and not only build but further and deepen relationships with people. And honestly, people with high emotional intelligence are able to navigate social interactions very easily. That's why people with very high EQ have lots of friends and lots of acquaintances and have lots of connections with people and know people and can get stuff, or the ability to get things. So that's very important, just because think of business, think of leadership, it's all social skills. You could be the smartest person, and I'm going to get into this in the next topic. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you're like a dick to people and you don't get along with people, you can't manage relationships very well, then no one's going to listen to you. That's what it is. So those are the 5 different parts of emotional intelligence. 1, self-awareness. 2, self-regulation. 3, motivation. 4, empathy. 5, social skills. Now I have a website. I'll link it in the description, just because I actually started taking. So it has basically, it's a website. It has an IQ test and an EQ test you can take. They're very long. It's like 30 minutes to an hour, depending on which test you take. So I didn't necessarily have the time, but I definitely going to take some time, hopefully at the end of this week, and do that. But I'll put in the description if any of y'all want to try it out. I think that's pretty cool. Now, what's more important, EQ or IQ? So I mentioned earlier what EQ is, emotional quotient, kind of relating to EI, which is emotional intelligence, not AI. I know I talked about AI last week. We're talking about EI this week. But IQ, everyone probably has heard of IQ, intelligence quotient. It's directly related to cognitive intelligence, so problem solving, math skills, stuff like that. Whereas emotional intelligence is, like I said, managing, building relationships, being able to read a room, have social interactions. Now, which is more important, EQ or IQ? Now, I kind of talked about this briefly earlier. It's like you could be the smartest person in the room, but you won't work well with people. People don't trust you, then your intelligence doesn't really mean anything. But you could also be the most connected person in the room, and you could be dumb as bricks. You could be the funny guy, and still no one would really listen to you. They might trust you in a sense. They might think you're funny and interact with you, but you won't have. You have to have some sort of base level IQ. Now, I think they're equally important. I think ultimately it does depend on your goal. If your goal is to be the greatest scientist of all time, yeah, maybe EQ doesn't really matter as much. Like I know a lot of great scientists were like terrible with people, and yeah, they're the smartest people ever, and they discovered so many things, but people didn't like being around them because they're very arrogant and other things. So I think there's this baseline level of IQ that you need. High IQ if you want to excel far in very individual skill or profession or whatever, then maybe IQ is definitely more important than EQ. Now, on the other hand, like I said, I think you need both. If you can have max amount the both to the highest ability, then definitely. Like I am all about learning, gaining new skills, increasing your own intelligence on just different a broad spectrum of different metrics and topics, breadth of experience. But ultimately, EQ does drive more success when you're thinking from like a business perspective, a leader perspective, being able to lead people to build relationships. Business is all about relationships. So when it comes to success, I'd probably, if you're doing something that's very individualistic and you're not going to interact with anyone, which is very rare, very few kind of positions and paths that apply, then IQ is more important. But for majority of people, EQ is definitely more important just because the ability to read a room, interact with people, build social interactions and social relationships with people is definitely more important than being the smartest person in the room. Just because you cannot be the smartest person in the room, learn from everyone. For example, the age old quote that they say, the average of the five people around you is you. You're going to become that. You're going to become the average of the five people you hang out with. Same with if you're in a room full of millionaires and you hang out with millionaires all the time, like you will probably be the sixth millionaire. So they're a lot smarter than you. They might have, well, they might not be smarter than you. Who knows? But let's just say they're smarter than you. You're going to naturally become smarter, become better at making money, becoming wealthy by being with them. And you don't have to be smart. You just have high emotional intelligence, work well with those people, you can learn from those people, you can extract important information, and then you can apply that information to your own life. So EQ does drive more success as a leader. Now, there's this good article which I found on LinkedIn. Let me go to the window share. How do we? I'll put this in the description as well. Okay, here's why emotional intelligence is more important than IQ. Talks about what emotional EQ is and what IQ is and kind of the difference between them. All right, top five reasons EQ determines success in life, like I was mentioning earlier. Number one, EQ has a greater impact on success than other factors. And he talks about it is believed that your IQ only accounts for 20% of your success in life, while the 80%, other 80% is determined by your emotional intelligence, which I talked about earlier with social interaction, building relationships with people. The reason why we live on this earth with other people in societies, if we weren't meant to be in societies and work in societies and have families and stuff like that, everyone would just kind of be doing their own individualistic thing. That's just not how the human race is built. All right, number two, the ability to delay gratification is our primary indicator of future success. Now, this is a big one. I can definitely do better on that. I think I've done a pretty good job so far. I mean, I save and invest over half of my income, but there's some stuff I spend money on. Maybe I can do a little bit better. I can definitely make more money. I'm just talking just purely of a financial perspective, but you can think of it as like training your body as well. It's like I'm not going to eat those donuts. I'm going to sacrifice and go to the gym. And now it's not even a sacrifice. It's like I love going to the gym. I look forward to it every single day. But your ability, it's true, your ability to delay gratification, kind of work hard now, earlier, then you can use compound interest to your advantage. You can use time to your advantage. You're going to be way better off than not delaying that gratification, kind of just partying it up your first 30 years of your life, and then you're like 30 and you're like, I don't know what to do with my life. I don't have any money. I'm broke. I don't have any skills. That's going to put you in a very poor a situation that not many people want to be in. Number three, high EQ leads to healthy relationships with others. Like, this goes back to my relationships. It's all about relationships, relationships, relationships. Better relationships you have with people, the more, I wouldn't say necessarily a ton of relationships is better than a few deep relationships per se, but if you can build relationships extremely quickly and deepen those relationships, then you're going to be better off with one person who just has like two really good relationships with people and they're super deep. You want to kind of balance both of those. You want to keep meeting new people, keep building more relationships, but also furthering several of those relationships as well. Number four, emotional health impacts physical health. It's true. There's a direct connection between our emotional health and our physical health. If our lives are filled with stress, and it's true, I talked about this in my Managing Stress Live, that if you manage stress accordingly and properly, it actually helps you do better in life. But if you have too much stress in your life, it's going to dramatically impact your health for negatively. It has been estimated that well over 80% of our health problems are stress related. There we go. Emotional health will make you live longer. All right, and then finally, number five, poor EQ is linked to crime and other unethical behaviors. Now, I'm not sure exactly what sites he's sourcing or if he has any sources cited. I haven't really looked into that, so I don't know if I can necessarily agree with that. But I mean, I'd say poor EQ. I don't know if it's directly linked to crime and other unethical behaviors, but it puts you in a worse situation. I'll just tell you that. Just because if you're not working on your emotional intelligence, you don't work well with people. You kind of be on the outside and seen as an outsider. You don't work well with people, and when you're kind of an outsider, you might think, oh, people think they're better than me. It can build resentment, and then it can maybe lead you to do some poor decisions. So maybe that's how it could possibly link. Like I said, I haven't looked at these studies. I don't even know if there's any studies backing this. So I'm not quick to jump onto that quite yet. But I will put this in the description so y'all can check it out. And lastly, pretty short live. Like I said, I'm going to watch the World Series. I'm also starving. I haven't eaten lunch. I was at the card place all day. And I need to do some studying. But last but not least, all right, Mike, these are great things. It's great to know about emotional intelligence, kind of the different parts, why it's important, why EQ is more important than IQ in most situations. How do I develop this thing called emotional intelligence? Like, IQ makes sense. I just do more math problems. I just kind of do more iterations of stuff that will make me smarter. Do more Sudoku puzzles or something. How do I get better at social skills? How do I get better at reading a room? How do I get better at building healthy relationships? How do I get better at making more informed decisions, navigating through life, managing stress? Here's the answer. A lot of you are probably not going to like it just because it's not a quick fix. Most of the stuff most of the solutions I offer are not quick fixes. And the reasoning for that is it's all about the process. It's all about changing yourself into the person you want to become, being the best version of yourself, being stronger, smarter, healthier, wealthier, right? This is how you do it. Experience, experience, and experience. And on top of that, go ahead and get some more experience. The only way you can really increase your emotional intelligence is just by experiencing a plethora of different things. If you just kind of live in the same hometown, you do the same job over and over again, you don't really try anything new, you don't gain new experiences, then of course you're probably not going to interact with people very well just because you meet people, hey, if they're not from the exact same part that you're from and like the exact same things you like, it's going to be very hard to connect with that person. And if it's hard to connect with that person, it's hard to build a relationship of any sort, let alone deepening that relationship. So, for example, I like to try new things here and there. I got into skiing, and before I went to Utah, I skied once, and that was it. So I basically taught myself how to ski, got myself more into the fitness industry. I didn't really like lifting weights before high school or even during high school as much, but I kind of got into it after. Now I'm big in the fitness space and a little bit more in social media as well, style, grooming, the dating scene as well. In high school, I was a total introvert. Like, I'd go on a date here and there, but that was just for like, I don't know, yeah, asking a girl out for like an activity or whatever, with nothing serious. But now, like going through college, dating a ton of girls, having several girlfriends, it gives me experience. But the only way I can have that experience and gain that experience is I have to try new things. I can't stay in this little bubble that not mom protected me in. I have to break out of that bubble, try new things. Obviously, that doesn't mean you go do stupid stuff. That's like, oh, I never tried this. I'm gonna go try that. Don't do that. Be rational. Be Take calculated risks. But you need to just go out and try new stuff. So, see an attractive girl, talk to her, get to know her, exchange numbers, go on a date. One thing leads to another. That's dating, finances, learn how to invest, try different stuff. Don't gamble all of your life savings away. Just you learn from experience, and one thing you can actually expedite your experience is not only you need to try new stuff because that's the main thing you're going to gain experience, but extracting information from other sources and from other people, it gives you so much experience or at least knowledge at first, then you can dive into the actual experiences themselves, like podcasts, like the value I'm bringing to people. I know there's a lot of other people on YouTube that I watch personally that give me a lot of value, give me a lot of this kind of somewhat pseudo experience that, hey, I've never run a Fortune 500 company, but I can listen to a podcast of a CEO talking about their experience running a Fortune 500 company. I probably will, most likely will probably never get to that point in my life, but I might not have personally have that experience just because you don't really grasp something, or it's like a mission. Like you get told all about a mission, the ins and outs about it, but you don't really experience it until you go out on a mission. But that prerequisite knowledge and those experiences that people that have served a mission share to you are very important, and it can get you just as close. It's not the real thing, and you should go experience it yourself. But there's a lot of stuff that we just can't experience in life. Like like I said, I probably won't become a Fortune 500 CEO. That'd be pretty sick if I did. But I can listen to a podcast. I can read their books to see what knowledge they've gained along the journey. Because that's the most important thing. Like I said, the journey. And the more I can learn about other people's journeys, the more I can apply it to my own journey and experience it myself. So there you go. How to develop emotional intelligence. You clip this. Experience, experience, and experience. You gotta try new stuff. You gotta go out of your comfort zone. That way you can build this experience. That way you can relate to other people. How can you relate to other people if you've never done anything new and you kind of just do the same thing over and over again? You're gonna meet someone eventually that doesn't do the same thing that you specifically do. But if you had branched out, tried different things, you can connect with that person. Bam, you have a relationship. Sweet. So I'll leave it at that. I do not think there's any questions currently, but I'll put everything in the description. Hope y'all like this. Let's see. Let me do a recap real quick. So, talked about emotional intelligence tonight. What is emotional intelligence? 5 different parts of emotional intelligence. Which is more important, EQ, IQ? Up for debate. I say EQ. And finally, all right, Mike, tell me about all this EI, emotional intelligence, not AI, but EI. Like, how do I get more of this? How can I increase my EQ, my emotional intelligence? Experience, experience, experience. All right, I'll leave it at that. But I was gonna go into next topic. I've brainstormed several topics. Let me pull it up real quick. My next one, I'll actually probably one thing I've been focusing on is how to choose a city to live in. I think I'm gonna go with that. Well, I guess tonight I am committing to that. So Thursday, look out for what what city should I live in? It's like I want to do this, all dependent on what you want to do for sure. For example, how did I choose kind of Austin, Texas to kind of be the place where I moved to initially? Obviously, doesn't mean I'm going to stay here the rest of my life. Probably won't stay here the rest of my life. But for the near future, I see it as a viable opportunity and a great place for me to live. One, I want to be in the tech space. So think of tech spaces in the US. Obviously, this doesn't just specifically relate to the US, this can apply to worldwide. But for me specifically, the jobs that I was looking at, career I wanted to get into, kind of at least for this beginning part of my life, it would be staying in the US. So, worked in graduated in finance. I wanted to be in tech. All right, where are the tech hubs around the country? San Francisco, biggest one. You have, I'd say, trying to think of a second one other than Austin, honestly. Like, I guess you have New York, but that's more of like financial capital, not necessarily tech per se. I'd say Austin, unless someone reminds me of one that I can't think of at the moment. But it goes first San Francisco, second Austin, third, I know they kind of have a hub in North Carolina as well. It's just starting to come up as more of a tech place. Utah, Silicon Slopes, but I kind of narrowed Utah out just because I didn't want to stay in Utah for other reasons. And if you want to know those reasons, check out my why I moved from Utah and will most likely never move back. I have a lot about that. But so that's what I've kind of focused on. All right, I'm young, I'm single, I'm not married, so places I can also have like fun. And I like sports teams and stuff. Obviously, San Francisco has a lot more sports teams, has lots of fun stuff to do. Austin also has lots of fun stuff to do. I'd say there's kind of more stuff to do in Austin just because the diversity of kind of where it's located at. And then also cost of living. I knew how much I was gonna make. I kind of compared like salaries as well. Obviously, make more in the Bay Area, but cost of living there is way more expensive. Austin still has Texas cost of living prices. Obviously, rent and places to live are a little bit higher, but I actually got a really good deal on the place I'm living in right now. So that was kind of a no-brainer for me cost wise. There's no state income tax here, so I'm going to keep more of my money, less taxes in general, lower cost of living. All right, check to Texas. And then I've been here before multiple times, so I kind of had an idea of what I was getting into. So those are just a couple things. I'm not going to go over everything just because I'm going to hit that. Like I said, Thursday night topics of that night is going to be how do I choose a city to live in? So I'll kind of make a list of stuff you should look at when kind of looking for a city. And if you're still in your hometown, get out of your hometown. I had men's live or not live, men's value tip, but I'll probably talk about that as well. Why you should, if you're in your hometown, been there forever, you've been there for 5, 10, 15 years after you've graduated high school, like you need to leave. You need to go to more opportunity. Unless you're like living in New York already, living in San Francisco, living in a big city. And even if you are, I'd recommend you still leaving just to get a bigger network, kind of experience something new. But that's kind of it for tonight. As with everything, trying to help you guys get stronger, smarter, healthier, wealthier. So go ahead, follow for more tips, follow for more lives, and as always, stay pumped. Almost to 200 pounds. I'm doing a slow bulk, not trying to bulk too fast. That way, my goal is I hit 200 pounds last year, which I'm already basically almost at 200 pounds. Like I weighed myself this morning, 197. The goal is 210 by the end of the year or by the new year. Now, that's pretty thick. But to be fair, I'm almost 200 pounds right now. I can still see my abs, which is incredible. So I obviously have a lot more muscle now than I did last year. But the goal is 210. Anyway, you know what time it is. Cue the outro.